Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. A drunken Claire presses Holden for intel, and Kyle devises a scheme to drive Audra out of town. Billy calls Jack at the Abbott residence, excited about the start of Abbott communications. Billy lets him leave after they make a joke about suiting up for the throwback theme. Sally tells her lover at Billy's house that she is excited for tomorrow's debut and that she has a fantastic staff. Billy informs her that Diane and Jack are eager and thrilled about the celebration. Billy declares that they have a hit on their hands while displaying a fictitious newspaper headline and article. Sally tells Billy how considerate it was of him to cook it for her after reading the positive review. They talk endlessly about how thrilling everything is until it's time to make out. Billy uses the newspaper to ask Sally to move in with him after they had a conversation about his decor. She's a little gun-shy, but Billy talks her into it until she acknowledges that she enjoys being with him and comes around to the notion. Billy and Sally take it to the bedroom, where they strip and make love on the bed while chatting business. Following that, Sally is concerned about cohabitating and working together. She is afraid. Billy agrees, yet he maintains that they are long-lasting. Sally, predictably, consents to move in. Billy. Is Holden able to manage Claire? Holden is led into society by a resolute Claire, who orders 2 Vespers and suggests that they get some shots afterwards. He wonders why she wants to get sloshed after they discuss the fact that she has never been intoxicated. Holden irritates Claire by urging, "Go easy," while she downs her beverage and blows off his query. He backs off and vows not to disturb her mood. "I don't need anyone telling me what to do, think, or feel right now," she shouts. Claire says she wants to know what happened with Audra in Los Angeles, and Holden thinks something is off. Holden, Claire. As Claire questions Holden about their relationship and asks how he learnt the hard way about Audra, he acts reticent about it. Holden believes his former partner is causing trouble. Claire informs him that Kyle has come clean about France and she is curious about Audra's future now that she has been exposed. Holden acknowledges his ex doesn't mince words. Claire, now intoxicated, gripes that Audra is behaving just vindictively. She will believe she has nothing left to lose if Nate ends their relationship. Although she might not be violent, Holden cautions that she can be erratic. He worries about Claire because he doesn't know her past. The Newman says she isn't scared of Audra Charles while getting a refill from the barman. Holden, Claire. How will Kyle address Audra? Audra tells Kyle that there are some things he will never be able to outrun when he jogs into the Overlook. Kyle loses it when she mentions Claire and starts to doubt her basic humanity. Audra accuses him of continuing to be attracted to her despite this. They argue about the scene in the French train car when Kyle asks her if she truly wants to sleep with him. Kyle says he felt ill when he was near her. He hopes her guy dumps her on her ass and is happy that Claire introduced her to Nate. Following further insults, Kyle tells Audra that she has ruined all of her relationships and exhorts her to permanently leave the area. Audra won't be forced to go. She is told by Kyle to avoid him and Claire. Audra advises that things won't work out for him when his fiancé finds out. If she carries on with this campaign, Kyle promises to ruin her. Audra Kyle. When Kyle says Victor is on his side now that he passed his test, Audra laughs. He uses the mustache as a shield against her, and Audra makes fun of him for it. He is pitiful. "Don't make me come after you," Kyle cautions, and leaves. Kyle tells Jack that he ran into Audra back at the Abbott residence. Jack says, "Have you heard from Claire?" with a scowl. Kyle hasn't, which is not encouraging. Jack maintains that he should give her some space because doing otherwise might make things worse. Kyle objects because he fears Claire will decide she would be better off without him. Jack is confident they can get through this. Kyle assigns all the blame to Audra and Victor, believing that Claire will recognize his sincerity if he can get Audra to leave town. Holden, who is still at society, queries Claire's desire to argue with Audra, who has already failed. Claire is certain that her adversary will set fire to the house in order to make a point. She acknowledges that she now knows more. In France, things between Kyle and Audra went quite far. Claire insults Kyle for apologizing and attempting to make things right. Holden offers to deal with his ex, cautioning that she plays extremely dirty, as she sneers that she would love to wipe the smug look off Audra's face. He doesn't know her entire past, Claire tells him. What would help you? Holden says. In response, Claire says, tell me what happened in Los Angeles. Claire. Holden is trying to avoid informing Claire about his time with her in California when Audra enters. The brunette walks over and coos, well, with a knowing smile. Isn't this comfortable? At the Abbott residence, the mood was charged with excitement and nostalgia as Billy leaned against the desk in Jack's study, phone to his ear, unable to contain his bubbling enthusiasm while Jack listened on speaker. Billy called to celebrate the official launch of Abbott Communications, and his voice carried the kind of boyish thrill that always reminded Jack of their younger days, back when they dreamed of building something together, something that would cement the Abbott name in new ways. He teased Jack about suiting up for the throwback theme party, joking that the two of them should wear dated tuxedos or retro suits to honor the old-school days of press and publishing, and Jack, usually so stoic, let out a rare laugh, playing along with the joke and reminding Billy that they weren't exactly spring chickens anymore, but still had the drive of young men. It was one of those fleeting but heartfelt Abbott moments where the brothers found common ground, a small pocket of peace in the middle of the storms that constantly surrounded their family. Jack, in his polished Abbott way, reminded Billy that while business was important, family mattered even more, and Billy, for once, didn't argue, simply letting his older brother savor the energy of this fresh start before they hung up with mutual optimism. Though Jack couldn't shake his curiosity about how Sally and Billy's professional collaboration was bleeding into their personal lives. Meanwhile, at Billy's place, Sally had already settled into the cozy atmosphere he had tried to create for her, and she was practically glowing as she confessed to her lover how excited she was for tomorrow's debut of Abbott Communications. She praised the fantastic staff she had assembled, proud of her editorial instincts and design choices, while Billy played the charming host, casually mentioning that Diane and Jack were equally thrilled about the launch and that everyone seemed to believe this was the kind of project that could take root and grow into something iconic. Then, with a mischievous grin, Billy pulled out a fabricated newspaper page he had designed as a prop, complete with a headline announcing the success of their venture, and waved it in front of Sally, joking that this was just a preview of the glowing coverage they'd inevitably receive once the first edition hit the public. Sally, amused and touched, read aloud parts of the fake article, laughing at Billy's wit, and then softened, remarking how considerate it was of him to go to such lengths just to encourage her, just to keep the mood buoyant as they stood on the precipice of something that could reshape both of their lives. As they talked endlessly about the thrill of building something new, the line between work and romance blurred, and eventually Sally leaned into Billy's playful energy until it gave way to intimacy, the two of them sharing a long kiss before Billy, always one for the grand gesture, used the same mock newspaper to segue into a more personal matter, slyly asking her to move in with him. At first, Sally hesitated, visibly gun-shy about the idea of mixing their domestic lives with their already entangled professional dynamic, but Billy, with his blend of stubbornness and sincerity, coaxed her into admitting that she enjoyed every moment she spent with him. Her resistance softened into acceptance as she confessed that the notion of living together frightened her because she didn't want to ruin what they had, but Billy countered that it only proved how much there was to gain by deepening their connection. Eventually, predictably but not without emotional weight, Sally relented, agreeing to move in, and their laughter and kisses carried them into the bedroom, where they undressed with an urgency that spoke of both passion and celebration, making love in a way that was punctuated with business talk, dreams of the future, and playful interruptions, the sheets becoming their own stage where work and pleasure mingled until exhaustion finally overtook them. Afterward, as Sally lay tangled in the sheets, she couldn't shake her lingering concerns about cohabitation and collaboration. What if the business failed and took their relationship down with it? But Billy, steady and reassuring, promised her that they were in this for the long haul, that even if one part wavered, the core of what they shared was unshakable, and eventually, though still fearful, Sally closed her eyes with a smile, comforted by his certainty. Across town, however, in the dimly lit, polished interior of society, the energy was much darker, where Claire stormed in with a reckless air that unnerved Holden, who was already seated but quickly rose when he saw the determined look in her eyes. Without asking, she ordered 2 Vespers from the bartender, her voice sharp, and when Holden tried to lighten the mood by suggesting something more moderate, she snapped back, saying she wanted shots afterward, that she wanted to drown herself in something stronger because, for once, she wasn't interested in control, She was interested in release. Holden, protective but careful, raised a brow and asked why she, who had never been drunk before, was suddenly so eager to get wasted. But Claire brushed him off, downing her drink with a defiant tilt of her head before retorting that she didn't need anyone telling her what to do, think, or feel. Not him, not Kyle, not her family, no one. Holden, recognizing the storm in her, backed off with a small nod, promising he wouldn't ruin her mood. But even as he agreed, he couldn't hide his concern as he watched her order another round, knowing that the Claire who sat across from him tonight wasn't the same composed Newman he had come to know, but someone unraveling piece by piece. As the alcohol took hold, Claire's words became both bolder and more scattered, and she pressed Holden for intel, specifically about Audra Charles and what had happened in Los Angeles. She was relentless, circling back to details Holden didn't want to discuss, her curiosity tinged with jealousy and disdain, especially when she brought up Kyle's confession about France, her voice dripping with both bitterness and intrigue as she demanded to know what Holden had endured with his ex. Holden, hesitant, admitted that Audra never minced words and that she thrived on stirring trouble, but he kept dodging the more damning details, unwilling to spill everything when Claire's state was already unstable, though he couldn't deny the flash of resentment in his eyes when Claire accused Audra of vindictiveness, pointing out that if Nate ended things with her, Audra would have nothing left to lose, and that kind of desperation made her dangerous. Holden, still guarding his truths, warned Claire that his former partner might not be violent but was erratic, and in her unpredictability lay the seeds of real chaos. Claire, slurring slightly now, scoffed at the idea of being scared of Audra, insisting that she could handle herself and ordering another refill from the bartender with the imperious tone of a Newman who refused to show weakness. Elsewhere, Kyle jogged into the Overlook, hoping for clarity but instead running straight into Audra, whose presence was like poison in his bloodstream. She smirked, telling him there were things he could never outrun, and when she dared to mention Claire, Kyle snapped, his temper flaring as he questioned whether she even had a shred of humanity left in her. Audra, unbothered, accused him of still being attracted to her, of never truly escaping the pull she had over him, and their argument spiraled into a toxic dance of accusations, with Kyle bringing up the infamous train car in France, bitterly asking if she had ever truly wanted to sleep with him or if it was just another one of her manipulations. Audra leaned into the provocation, teasing him, while Kyle spat out that he had felt physically sick in her presence, that he hoped Nate dumped her flat, and that he was grateful Claire had introduced her to someone else so she could redirect her venom away from him. But Audra wasn't done. She mocked his anger, throwing insult after insult until Kyle finally warned her to leave town, to stop poisoning everything around her, because if she didn't, he would ruin her beyond repair. Audra laughed in his face, saying no one could force her out, least of all him, and when he brought up Victor, bragging that the mustache had tested him and now stood by his side, she doubled over in cruel laughter, mocking him for hiding behind Victor's shadow, for being pitiful enough to wield his grandfather's name like a shield. Kyle, eyes flashing, leaned in close enough to let the venom drip from his voice as he warned her not to push him, not to make him come after her, before storming off, leaving Audra standing smug and victorious on the Overlook, though her smirk wavered for just a second once he was gone. Back at the Abbott residence, Kyle confessed to Jack that he had run into Audra, and Jack, immediately concerned, asked about Claire, scowling when he learned Kyle hadn't heard from her. Jack advised his son to give Claire space, reminding him that pressing too hard might push her away, but Kyle, restless and paranoid, insisted that if he didn't act, Claire would realize she might be better off without him. Jack reassured him with fatherly confidence that their relationship could survive this storm, but Kyle, blaming everything on Audra and Victor, resolved that the only way forward was to drive Audra out of town, convinced that once she was gone, Claire would see his sincerity clearly. Meanwhile, back at society, Holden studied Claire's flushed face and unsteady posture, asking again why she was so fixated on confronting Audra when the woman was already failing in her schemes, but Claire, stubborn as ever, declared that Audra would sooner burn down the house than accept defeat, and she confessed that she knew more than Holden realized. France hadn't been the whole story, things between Kyle and Audra had gone far, and that betrayal gnawed at her like acid. Sneering, she admitted she would love nothing more than to wipe the smug grin off Audra's face, but Holden, hearing the dangerous edge in her voice, warned her that Audra played extremely dirty and that if she wanted vengeance, she'd better understand the risks. Claire, ever defiant, told him he didn't know her entire past, that she was stronger than anyone gave her credit for. And when Holden gently asked what would actually help her, she stared at him with glassy eyes and demanded, "Tell me what happened." In Los Angeles. Holden froze, the weight of his unspoken history pressing down on him, torn between loyalty to his own secrets and the raw vulnerability Claire was spilling out in front of him. But before he could form a reply, a familiar, venomous voice sliced through the tension like a blade. Audra, stepping out of the shadows, striding toward their table with predatory grace, her lips curved into a knowing smile as she cooed, Well, isn't this cozy?" Leaving Claire and Holden caught in the crosshairs of her arrival, the air thick with the promise of confrontation, secrets, and the kind of fireworks that threatened to blow everything apart. Audra's heels clicked against the polished floor with the rhythm of a countdown as she crossed the room, her gaze flicking from Holden to Claire with predatory amusement, the kind of smug expression that suggested she had already won a battle no one else even knew had begun. Holden stiffened, instinctively sliding his glass aside, prepared for impact, while Claire, tipsy but fiercely determined, straightened in her chair, refusing to let her rival see a shred of fear. "Cozy little nightcap, isn't it?" Audra purred, her tone dripping with false innocence as she rested her manicured hands on the table. Holden's jaw tightened. He'd seen this performance before in Los Angeles, the way Audra could slice someone down without even raising her voice, and he silently cursed himself for not steering Claire away before the storm arrived. Claire, however, smirked with drunken boldness and fired back. "What's the matter, Audra? Afraid people might compare notes and finally see you for what you really are?" That remark landed like a spark in dry brush, and Holden leaned back slightly, already calculating how to intervene if this spiraled out of control. Audra's eyes narrowed as she studied Claire with a mix of irritation and intrigue, tilting her head like a cat deciding whether to play with a mouse or crush it. "You really think Kyle's going to save you from yourself?" she asked smoothly, ignoring Claire's jab. "Because if you believe that, you're even greener than I thought." Claire laughed bitterly, raising her glass in mock salute. "Funny," she slurred. "Because the only one who needs saving around here is you. From Nate. From yourself. From the mess you leave everywhere you go." Holden held his breath, his own memories from LA flaring, the deals, the betrayals, the chaos Audra left behind. And though he wanted to silence Claire before she crossed a line, he also knew the Newman's fire was something Audra had underestimated before, and maybe, just maybe, it was exactly what was needed. Audra didn't flinch, but her fingers drummed the table, betraying her agitation. "Careful, sweetheart," she said, voice lowering. "You're drunk. And you're saying things you'll regret when your precious Newman family sees you making a spectacle." That comment struck a nerve. Claire slammed her glass down with enough force to rattle the silverware, leaning forward so close their faces nearly touched. "Don't you dare bring my family into this," she hissed, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. Holden put a steadying hand on Claire's arm, whispering, "Not like this," but she shook him off, glaring daggers at Audra. "I know what happened in France. I know what kind of filth you dragged Kyle into, and I want to know what happened in Los Angeles too. Did you ruin Holden the way you ruin everyone else?" The table fell silent for a beat, Holden's face draining of color as Audra's lips curved into a wicked grin. "Oh," she drawled, eyes glittering. "So that's what this is about. You really do think you can handle the truth, don't you?"